Okay, so this is going to be really fun. Okay, so if the Waltons were a real family, okay, which sibling would Mary Ellen be besties with today, and which sibling would be on the outs?
Uh, Probably Aaron at Mary McDonough
As your
Place
bestie?
as my
Uh
bestie
huh.
because we on the show got an apartment together at one point, and it was kind of the big sister, little younger sister. On the outs, Jim Bob. He was always kind of the dark horse, the lone wolf. Be like, what's
The
he doing
lone wolf of
now?
the Waltons. From the heart of Hollywood, it's the Patrick Labber Show with Patrick Labyorteaux.
It's the Patrick Labber Show. Patrick Labyorteaux. He's the one you gotta know.
Tonight's episode, Judy Norton.
Patrick Labber Show. He's the one you gotta know.
Okay, of course, you know her as Mary Ellen Walton, and as a Prairie boy, I know her as my mortal enemy from the mountains. Please welcome Judy Norton.
Hey,
How you doing, Judy?
okay. Now, just for the record, we were there first. You guys were copycats.
Well, here's the thing, right? So yeah, you had Miss Beadle on before Miss Beadle was on Little House. You guys were there first, but I think you might have experienced this as well. People think it's at the same time.
I
Like,
know.
which is weird. You guys were Depression, we were 1870s. It's like
Yeah,
a lot of differences.
yeah.
You guys had cars. Do you get that a lot where people think you were on Little House?
All the time. People always confuse the two, and they'll come up, and this one always touches my heart when they say, "Oh, so sorry, the father died." This was before Ralph Waite, our TV father, died. Of course, poor Michael Landon had
Right,
passed
right.
away way too young, and so I'd have to go, "No, sorry, fortunately, our father is still living." But constantly, "Oh, you're on, oh, Little House." It's like, no, the Waltons. And when I talk with Little House cast, they say the same thing, that people will say Waltons.
Yeah, it's absolutely that whole example where people get confused. It's like I get it. Both big family shows at that time, lots of kitchens, lots of eating around a big table,
Yeah.
and so it's sort of like I can see it. But you guys shot, I think, didn't you guys shoot at the Warner Ranch, like as far as the house
Mostly
or?
at Warner Brothers, at the actual
Okay,
studio lot. Our exteriors, our house, the Walton house, such as it was just a facade,
right,
was on the back lot. And a lot of our exterior sets were on the back lot or on the Warner Brothers lot, Midwest Street, Western Street, stuff like that. We had
right,
some sets that were like the Baldwin sisters' house was on the Warner Ranch, and there were some other places. And then for our very, very last reunion movie in 1996, they had moved or reconstructed the Walton house over on the Warner Ranch, because the Warner back lot where our house was is gone. It's all buildings and parking lots now.
yeah, and same with the ranch now. They got rid of the ranch. It's now just stages, which, oh God, it hurt my soul.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so a strange question before we get into like the actual interview, which is, so I've always thought that they should do a Little House reunion. I mean, because you guys did reunion movies. We never did a reunion movie per se, but like a reunion now, where like she's writing the books. I think
Uh,
would be a really good idea, and do a cross, and then we can meet you guys back in, but now like like with the right ages. Anyways, like a big crossover movie.
we get so many questions about, are we going to do another reunion movie? But for our family, it's sort of like, where are you going to put us? And yours too. I mean, at least your family would sort of still be in an earlier era, which could be interesting. Ours, what do we put them in,
Right.
the 80s or 90s? What do you do with the Waltons? Both casts, when you take them out of that setting, it's
Yeah.
like, okay, the Waltons dealing with, oh, technology. I mean, how interesting is that? I don't know that it is. So, but I hear they're doing that. Someone's talking about doing a reboot of Little House.
Yeah, they're doing it on Netflix. They're doing a reboot, but it's kind of like a, a version of the books. It's like they're readapting the books, which I think, okay, great. I mean, the books were the original. We were just an adaptation, and if you know anything about the books, it's like we weren't anything. We were kind of like the books, but like my character, a whole bunch of characters, Michael just made up out of whole cloth. Earl Hammer, though, on the other hand, that was his whole world. So
Yes, and it's I get conflicting stories on that because when we were doing the show, we had so many. Earl was always the story editor, always the final word on it, and did a lot of rewrites and stuff. Uh, but we had a lot of writers, and not every concept writers pitched stories, just like on any other show. So not every episode or every character was based on something that actually happened in Earl's childhood. Uh, and
right.
but when I spoke with Earl's son Scott at one point, he said that a lot of it was based on stories from his father's youth, but then embellished. So it's a little hard to tell what was, what wasn't. And I didn't spend
Yeah.
every week going, "Oh, Earl, did this really happen? Did this happen? And who was this character?"
Act One, beginnings. All right, well let's talk about Judy Norton. I hear she's a swell person. How did Judy become an actor? What was it that made you want to be an actor? When did that start?
Wow, my parents, as I expect with yours, when I was very young. I mean, we did. I have two siblings, and they put us into little acting classes. My sister and I did dance classes. We did little musical recitals when we were young, and then neither of my parents were in like film or television, but my mother, who grew up in England, had been an acrobat and was sort of in vaudeville growing up, and did this acrobatic act with her brother. And so she grew up during the war and watching the golden age of Hollywood movies and going, I want to get to Hollywood. I don't know what she thought she was going to do there. If she thought she wanted to get into the entertainment industry, or she just wanted to be in that world that people thought was what Hollywood was. So eventually she did get to Hollywood with my father, and so then at a fairly early age, my dad was working with somebody whose kids were doing some commercials or something, and parent ego, my kids are as good as your kids. If your kids can do it, my kids can, that kind of thing. So he did some research and found out how to sort of get us an agent, get us with an extras union. So started off doing background work, and then.
And how old were you about this time?
I started doing children's theater first. I did some theater productions when I was, I don't know, 6, 7. It was probably around 7 when I got an agent and got the occasional commercial or, small little cameo role in some TV show. So pretty young, and it rolled from there.
And was it something that obviously, kind of leading, I kind of know the answer, but was it something you enjoyed? I mean, was it something that you look forward to?
I loved it. I mean, it's like the epitome of playing make-believe. And when I had my little Barbie dolls, I'd like create little scenarios for them, and I'd talk for them, and I'd move them around like I think most, people who have action figures or dolls or whatever do. You create stories, and I would get with my little girlfriend up the street, and we'd go into her parents' converted garage and sing and stage shows, and it was just us. But always loved that. I was, I guess, kind of a bit of a ham from the time I was young.
Yeah, I think we kind of all end up being that kind of kid because it's obviously same with me. My mom was an actor, and you just kind of go along with them on whatever they're for her it was just auditions, and we'd go along and it would be like, oh, who are these kids, blah blah blah. But you either find that you like it or you don't like it. My brother and I both loved it. When you're auditioning for all of these roles, did you have an idea of what it was going to be like when you grew up? Was it something you look forward to doing further, or was it just you didn't think that far ahead?
I hoped I could make a career out of it, and one never knows. And as with probably the majority of actors, it's been hit and miss. There've been times where I've kept busy and times where I've been like, do, 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 do. I'm sure I've retired and nobody told me.
Right, exactly. And it's always when you're not working that people come up to you and talk to you about projects you've done, and always when you're working when they come up to you and go, "What are you doing? Are you still acting?" And it's like, "Yeah, I'm actually in something right now," but like the timing is always off for some reason.
Well, I mean,
So
for
when
you,
you are, go ahead, sorry.
you've done a number of high-profile TV series, post Little House, and I never had that good fortune to step into another series. So a lot of the work that I did was, a guest spot here and there, so people don't necessarily know the body of your work. And I also then went and did a lot of theater, which is never high profile. So I'd say more of my subsequent career has been less high profile. So people tend to go, "Are you still acting?" and the "Whatever happened to?" and the "Where are they now?" shows. So,
Right.
but those
Well,
can
I'm here
be.
to tell you. I'm here to tell you that even in Hollywood, I had just gotten off of JAG, which is one of those shows you're talking about. We had done 10 years of JAG, and I had my first audition after JAG, and I walk into the casting office, and they go, "Patrick, where have you been? What are you doing?" It's like, "I was just on a TV show for 10 years, and you don't know? Oh my gosh." We'll be back after these messages. Have you ever thought about becoming an actor and making your friends and family jealous? Well, have I got a deal for you. Here at Working Actors School, we offer many different classes so you can become a famous actor like me. And we have a delightful selection of classes, including Adult Weekly. It's every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific. Here you will learn how to be an actor with other adults. How do we do it? How is it possible? Is it a miracle? Yes, it is. A miracle called Zoom. We teach everything online so you can become a famous actor and impress your friends and family. So if you want to be a famous actor and make your friends and family jealous, then you need to sign up at Working Actors School. You can get a hold of us at workingactorschool.com. You can sign up for classes at workingactorschool.com. You can make a reservation for the class online at workingactorschool.com. So come check us out. It's workingactorschool.com. Act 2. Success. So you're a kid actor, you're going to the commercials, you're doing guest stars. I would imagine that perhaps, was it possible did you audition for Little House before Waltons, or was that just, they took you off the market?
No, it took me off the market because, well, we originally did The Homecoming. That was the original audition, which was just the Christmas TV movie based off of Earl Hamner's book, The Homecoming, go figure. And so that was 5 weeks of work, and that was like October, November, and aired like Thanksgiving time, November of 1971. And then while we were in our last week of filming up in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, shooting snow sequences, we started hearing rumors that they were interested in turning it into a series. And my first thought was, oh, I don't know if I want to do a series, then I'd be out of school all the time. I mean, it's like the innocence of being 13.
Right.
And then, of course, reality and sanity hit, and I went, oh, of course I want to do a series. So by the beginning of 72, they had put us all on hold. So I was on hold from about early 72 until they actually got the commitment from CBS. And then we were very fortunate that we just rolled over into the series, that all the kids.
Well, Homecoming was like a huge hit. I mean, I remember it as being like there was a lot of event television, obviously like Roots and Shogun, but like Homecoming was just a one-off movie, but it was huge. Mm-hmm. So it made a lot of sense. Did you kind of have that experience when it aired, like all of a sudden you're Mary Ellen to everybody out of nowhere?
Yeah, I don't really remember. I remember by the time I was moving into high school, because it happened just as I was making that transition. I was graduating. I graduated in 72 and then started high school in 72. So I wasn't really in high school to start with, so it wasn't until 9 months later, right, really, because we shot 9 months out of the year. I expect you did too. So that was a lot of the reason why I never got to do anything else, because they wouldn't let us out for anything. So I didn't even
Right.
know if there were offers or auditions. At one point, my agent said, "Oh yeah, we had offers for you, but I didn't talk to you about them because you couldn't do them." And I was like, that would have meant a lot to me, because I'm sitting there thinking, oh, nobody cares. Nobody's interested in me. You know,
Right.
it would have been really morale boosting, at least, to hear that there was interest, even if I couldn't do it. They made
You
a
know, that's
comment.
interesting coming from someone who's famous on TV that you still had that feeling. And I just want to stay there just for a second because as a human being, once you're on a TV show, especially then, and you got a big cast like you guys did, like we did, you're surrounded by people doing the same thing, doing the show, and it kind of becomes normal. It doesn't feel like a big. Did you feel like a celebrity, or did you just feel like you were going to do the show and that was it?
Pretty much that. I think it finally started to hit when I go out and do some sort of parade or publicity thing, when people then seem to think it was cool. I mean, in LA, I don't know if you experienced this, but people weren't very impressed by actors in LA because they're all over the place. I went back to my high school and people made fun of me because, probably like Little House, the Waltons wasn't cool. So people didn't,
Right.
my peers didn't want to admit they even knew of the show, or certainly didn't watch it, but they certainly knew what sort of things to throw out, like, "Good night, John Boy, where's Mary Ellen? Where's Jim Bob?" So I'm like, well, seem to know a lot about the show that you're making fun of.
Right.
So that would happen. So if I got out of LA into other places where these shows were hugely popular, then I'd start getting that sense. But it was pretty rare. I remember one going into some sort of a store shopping one day, a clothing store, and the salesperson having this like this complete, and I was like, I didn't know what to do with it, because that wasn't my experience. People tended to go, "Oh, you're in my living room every week and you're like family, and treat you like you're a cousin or something."
Right. I had this weird experience where, again, this was later on. This is I have a family, and I had my wife and my kid. We were up in Lake Arrowhead, and I had grown like a hiatus beard from Jag, and it was time to go back to work. So I went to a barber to get like a professional shave. And again, like you're saying, Jag was the same way. Little House, Waltons, in the middle of America. Oh my gosh, New York and California. It's like, what? That's still on? They didn't care. But we were up in Lake Arrowhead, which is kind of middle America more than it is LA. And I'm getting my face shaved, and halfway through, the guy, because he's shaving me, recognizes me
Oh no.
because now half of my face is like available, and he's got a straight razor, and all of a sudden the straight razor is shaking, and I'm like, whoa, 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 what's going on? And he goes, I just know who you are now. And I go, okay, well then let's talk about this before you finish this shave.
Yeah.
So you're on the Waltons, and let's talk about Allison, who I'm sure you know, Allison Arngrim.
Yeah.
She said something really great, which she goes, as far as kids and being protected, and like, everyone's always, everyone thinks that everything is evil here in Hollywood, and it's not. But that part of growing up in the business, it was easier on a show like Little House or The Waltons because there were other kids there. There were a lot of other kids around. How did you find working with such a large cast, and again, with so many kids?
It was great because, as you said, you had peers. For us, because there was an age range from Cammie who was the youngest, was I think 6 when we did the homecoming, or 5, and so she was only about 6 when we started the series, and then John Walmsley was the oldest at 15, and Richard Thomas we never considered one of the kids.
Right.
So, we didn't hang out together on set particularly.
Right.
But the rest of us were all in school together. So early on, I gravitated more to, say, John or Eric Scott, who was the same age as me. And the younger ones were kind of like, the difference between 13 and 10 is big.
Oh,
But as the
huge.
series proceeded towards the end, all of a sudden, 15 and 18 is nothing. So, it sort of moved around in terms of those little cliques and who you were closest to, but there was always somebody. And just like very early on, there was a sense that we were family. And to this day, we are family. We attend personal events together, family things, memorials,
Right.
weddings, things like that. So that was always very nuclear. The family was tight. And so there were times like with a real family where I was pissed at somebody. I wasn't speaking to this person or what, but it was never serious. It was never like, oh, this is going to be lifelong. It was, I'm irritated with him or her right now, but I still know their family and I still love them. So
Right. Yeah.
these were the dynamics, and that made it really great as opposed to actors I've spoken with who were the only child on a show. I think that was a lot
Yeah.
tougher. So I wouldn't
Well,
say,
because I would agree with that because you're surrounded by, obviously, even on any show, you're surrounded by adults. But if you're the only child, then it's the adult rules all the time. Whereas California has special kid rules to begin with, where you can only work 8 hours, you got to go to 3 hours of school, all those types of things. And so there's a structure that kids are familiar with. But with an adult cast, they're not bound by that. And if you're the only one, then you're kind of shut off into a room with your teacher or social worker and your parent, and that's it until they need you.
yeah, definitely. That's when I'm sure you hope for guest stars that are your age.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
when you're doing all of these shows and you have Dude, sense of time is really weird. I was only on Little House 4 years, okay, but I was on JAG for 10. So it's like as an adult, 10 years is like this is my livelihood. This is my. But as a kid, for you, you're literally growing up on the show, and at that time, it wasn't like they were on the bubble. It was like the Waltons was going to go on forever. How was that to grow? Like, did you? And people are going to find this weird if you did. Did you get tired of it? Was it like I just want this to be over, or how? What was the like your? What's the word I'm looking for? What was like the graph of like your interest on being on the Waltons through the years?
There were always aspects that were fun, but yes, and I look back and I can't say that I'm proud of it, but proud of my attitude about it. But yes, there hit times where I'd look at a script and because at that point, I think what people may not be thinking with is that how much the world has changed and how much had to be done in person. So if you want to go to a bank, if or you need to go to the dentist, or some things still need to be done in person. But nowadays, you can do so many things just in the blink of an eye with technology. At that point, I couldn't even go to the bank. And there were no ATM machines, so things
Yeah.
like became you had to try and maybe squeeze out a few minutes during your lunch break because businesses were closed at hours when we weren't working. So things like that became challenging just in running your life. So days off during the week became like, oh my goodness, great. And as you know, sitting around on a set all day can be boring. There's so much downtime, and when you're young, that downtime is you've got school you have to deal. So you're trying to get through the school because you're back and forth, and okay, I'm working, and now I got to focus on this thing. And now I'm back, and now where was I? So I couldn't wait to be done with the school aspect of working, which fortunately, because I was in high school, wasn't that long. But then you're just sitting around for hours. And there's so many things you can't do because you're in hair and makeup and wardrobe. So fortunately, most of our clothes, it didn't matter if we got them dirty, but sometimes it did. And they don't want to keep redoing your hair and makeup. So you're killing time, and and a TV show works so much faster than a movie. But even still, hours and hours, and you might have, I got a scene here, and now I got hours until I got the scene later on. And, can't we shoot this
Backgammon was a huge thing on our set. What did you guys use?
with what?
We backgammon was a huge thing on our set to play to keep busy. What did you guys do?
I don't honestly. I think we hung around and chatted. I don't remember particularly playing games. I'd read books sometimes, but anything you're doing can get old fast. We didn't have cell phones, so it's not like you sat and chatted with your friends. You couldn't really go
Right.
anywhere because they might need you anytime. And so, yeah, and then as things went along and you felt like episodes had a lot of similarities, it's like, more scenes around the kitchen table. And sometimes because we had a big cast, I might be in a scene and I might not have any lines, or I might have one line. And sometimes I'd look at the schedule and think, tomorrow I'd come in, I'm in this scene, I say nothing, or I say one line. It's like, can't you just write me out of that so I could have the day off instead of having to come in for hours, because they're going to call you in 4 hours before they need you, just in case.
Well, especially the ladies, because you've got hair, makeup, wardrobe, all that stuff, the works they call it, and you got to get in the works and have it all ready, and then just sit there like you're saying, waiting.
And they might, what if we have to change the schedule? And I get it, because you never want to be waiting on actors. So I understand that, but it's like I'd have some scene. I'm like, I'm in the second to the last scene of the day, and you're calling me in at 11 o'clock before lunch to get me ready. You're going to get me in. I'm going to get ready. You're going to send me to lunch. I'm going to come back. They're going to fix my hair and makeup again, put on more layers. And then I'm going to sit and you're going to work with me at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I mean, you get so you know how these things are going to roll. But the AD's
Right.
like, I can't help it. If we move, and they couldn't, you didn't have cell phones, so they couldn't say, hey, get here right now.
Right.
So yes,
Yeah,
there were
the
times
80s want
where,
all the pieces on the play to play with. They want all of their pieces on the board in a holding room so they can
And I
call them
get it.
whenever they need them.
And
Yeah.
I was always grateful to be doing the show, and I literally did check in at times with myself to say, I'm taking this moment to recognize how fortunate I am to be doing this, how much I love this, and how grateful I am to have this. But, I also recognize that the tedium of it, there were times where, I'd rather have that day off than sit and being a background player in a scene.
Right. And when you talk about that, I think if some people aren't aware of it, they think, oh, gosh, how can they possibly think that, I don't want to go into work and be on TV? Half of your face might be cut off in the background because you're sitting in the living room and someone else is having a big fight scene or a big argument or a big whatever, and you're just there. Like, I mean, I remember going in for like a lot of those for the church, where you're just sitting listening to the reverend talk for like 2 days, and you're like, this is crazy, but the whole town has to be there. And so it's like it's not fulfilling on a creative level. It's kind of taking you away from all that other stuff. So I get it.
Yeah.
So you do the Waltons, which is this huge thing. It's a big, huge part of your life. When the show, how did you find out that the show was ending? I mean, because it was such a long type of show. And then, so how did you find out?
I honestly don't remember. It was between seasons. We had finished our 9th season. They did not tell us in advance. We thought the 8th might be the last, and I think they thought it might because they did sort of a bit of a retrospective episode at the end that was like a decade of the Waltons or whatever, because it was the first, I think, not that we had done 10 years, but that the time span of the Waltons had kind of encompassed a decade or something. And, people asked me, they said, did you get to take anything away? I said, no, we didn't even know it was going to be the last episode. Now, again, when I spoke with Earl Hamner's son, he said, oh, they knew it was going to be the last episode because he wrote it. Scott Hamner wrote the last episode. And it had a little bit of a sense of that it could be, but he said they knew. And so if that is correct, they just didn't want to tell us because maybe they didn't want us to treat the last episode differently or it to be any of an issue.
Sure.
So,
yeah.
And maybe there was some slim hope that there might be a pickup. But yeah, sometime between hiatus, whether it was a call from my agent or I heard through the grapevine, it's like the show's been canceled, which is a weird thing, isn't it? When you get that news, however you get it.
Yeah. It's it's something, especially on the long running shows. And again, my comp for you for me is Jag, because I was there 10 years. You were there 10 years. I was in a cost plus world market buying rattan furniture with my wife. I get a call from the producer and he goes, "We're done." And it's like, huh? What? We've been doing something 10 years and now we're never doing it ever again. But you guys actually did. You did some reunion movies, but did they cushion the blow with that, or was that something new, a new idea later that you did, that you found out that you were doing like movies?
It was a little later that I found out. I think it was maybe because I know it was after that summer I went and did theater. I did my first, I got my equity card, my union card with the Pittsburgh Civic Light Opera. And it was after that, because I remember talking to some of those cast members after and saying, hey, I think it was maybe in the fall that we got word that we were originally on CBS. We got word that NBC was going to do 3 2-hour movie of the weeks. And I don't remember exactly when we shot them, but we shot them, I think, back to back to back. So the following year. So that was great. And I think there may have even been some, I don't know if it was me, my wishful thinking that maybe NBC would pick the show up. And I was amazed they never did spin-offs or anything, because there was so many opportunities that they could have done for spin-offs, but they didn't do any of that. And then, so that was 82, because the series ended in 81. 82, we did the 3 reunion movies. And then it was like 10 years before we did the first of 3 more over the course of 5 years. So in those cases, we did one and it was a huge ratings thing. And so they went, oh, let's do another one. And then that was enough of a ratings thing that they went, okay. And the last one was very gratifying, because I know exactly when it was, because it was 1996, and I had just had my son, and I was home, kind of getting to figure out the whole new parent thing. And literally barely out of the hospital from delivery, and I got 2 calls. One was from my agent about that they wanted to do another Walton reunion. And so I got the call probably end of May or something. And they were going to shoot like maybe at about 10 weeks. My son was 10 weeks old when I showed up for work for that reunion. And I also got a call from I was living in Canada, and I got a call from a casting director in Saskatchewan. It was a really funny call. Do you ride horses? I'm like, yeah. It's been a hobby of mine forever. I mean, you would say that anyway, but I really do. I jump horses, I compete, I do the whole thing. So I'm like, yeah. And she's like, well, there's this mini series that it was a Richard Chamberlain starring mini series, and they said, and we're looking for someone to play his wife in some flashbacks, and you have to be able to ride. I'm like, great. I'm sitting there going, I don't know that I want to get on a horse today, but
Right. Yeah, exactly.
This was going to hit, my shoot dates were right after we finished our shoot. So it all worked out. So I did the Walton thing for whatever it was, 2 or 3 weeks. And then I went to Saskatchewan and shot 2 or 3 days on this mini series. So it's great, because you think, oh, now I'm a parent. Now my career's over. It's like, wow, maybe I should have kids.
Right.
Maybe that's my mistake. I should have kept having kids, because that was.
You should have had as many Walton kids as you could.
Yeah.
So I would imagine, and I think everyone else would imagine, that these reunion shows are fun for you because you're getting to see everybody. But the question I have for you is, was it the same creatives behind the scenes? And was that like, were all the same people involved, or was it just the cast and different writer
Earl
directors?
Hamner was always involved. So Earl was a constant always. There were some directors were directors, especially with the first 3 reunion ones. I think we worked with directors that we had worked with on the series, because we had a lot of different directors we worked with, and same thing with writers. The subsequent 3, Earl was a constant. but and maybe there were a few other people that were the same, and same producers, like executive producers or whatever, but then a lot of the rest of it was different. And I think the first 3 reunions were a little more consistent story-wise with the characters, and I think there was a bit more family involvement, because we did a Thanksgiving one, we did Aaron's wedding, and then we did my wedding. So the stories were really about the family. The final 3 were really sort of, they focused around John Boy, of course, but the stories were not what I would have hoped for, and we were very peripheral characters. So it was sort of like it was the John Boy story, and the parents did some stuff, and the kids were grown-ups that we were now were rather peripheral in some, which was a bit
well, it can be frustrating because, I mean, I understand that when you're on a roll like your show with all the same creatives and Earl there, it's has a consistency. Even in that consistency, as you go from the earlier years to the later years, happened on Little House, happened on Jag, the show kind of changes because the kids get older. Then you got to do different stories, and maybe they don't want to do the same storyline, so you're kind of doing different things. But when you add the additional years in between the reunion movies, where they're calling in people saying, "What's your take on a Waltons TV movie?" It may not be the same, and so I get it. Or it's like frustrating. It's like they don't understand the characters in the same way that the people that were grinding it out for year after year, week after week, would understand the characters. And for them, for them to come in and then like tell you how your character works, it's like, well, no, I kind of know better how the character works than someone who's just starting this, idea.
Well, we ran into inconsistencies all over the place, which I think is not uncommon for that time period. There's a lot of things where it's like, well, in one episode they said this, and then they completely contradict it later on in another episode. And the biggest thing was, by the time we did some of the later ones, was a number of us had kids. Our characters had kids, and some of these kids, it was as if they'd vanished. I mean, they had vanished. They weren't mentioned. Like one, Ben and his wife
Cunningham
had 2 children. One they said died, which is bad enough, and the other one they didn't even mention. So he just he just went poof. And I had a son who was there for many seasons. He was, a toddler and was very involved, and not even mentioned. And all of a sudden I had 2 other children. And in one of the first reunion movies, I had an accident, and we determined that I couldn't have any more children. I'd had, damage to my uterus or whatever. So now all of a sudden I have 2 other children with no explanation whether these were adopted or whether, advances in medicine had made it possible for me to safely have children. So audiences who were loyal for the whole all of a sudden were like, well, what happened to, and what about this? And they know the details of the show better than I do, because they've seen these episodes.
This is true. Yeah.
10, 20 times, they watch them over and over. So, yeah, so sometimes I feel like they missed the boat. And when it was brought to their attention, Eric said he asked one of the producers about it. It's like, what about my children? What about Charlie? Where's Charlie? And they're like, and he was literally told, don't cause trouble. Nobody will notice.
They love that phrase, nobody will notice. It's just like they think that the people, some of the producers, there are great guys, but some of them, they just don't get it. We'll be back after these messages. Hey there, I'm Patrick Labyorteaux, and I've been an actor since I was a little kid, so I know what it's like to be a little kid actor. So I have a class here called Youth Weekly, and that meets every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific, and it is an awesome class if you are young and want to learn all about acting. We have a great set of kids, and it's taught on Zoom, so you can do it from anywhere. You can do it on your phone, you can do it on your laptop, on an iPad. It's awesome. I've had kids take a class while they were in the car coming back from soccer practice. I swear to you. So if acting is in your blood, come to workingactorschool.com and check out the Youth Weekly class every Tuesday at 5:30 p.m. Pacific. I'll see you there. Act 3, present day. Okay, so when the Waltons is ending, and you've explained what's going on, what did you think what did you want for yourself after the show? What was your plan? How did you want it to go?
Well, it was an interesting thing over the last couple seasons because you start sensing that a show's winding down. Probably run its course, and I knew that at some point the show was going to end, and then I would have to find out what was life beyond the Waltons, and I couldn't start finding that out until the show ended. So there was this little bit of, for me, a sense of limbo for the last couple of seasons. I was always, very happy when we got the pickup notice, because I went, okay, my next year is accounted for. I know what I'm going to be doing. But then I went, well, what, I don't know what to plan for. I don't know how to prepare. I don't know. And I was, mid-20s, so I thought, I'm not going to go back to school. What am I going to do? Study drama?
Right.
I mean, this is my vocation now. This is like what I've been doing, and I hope to continue to be involved in the arts. So there was a part of me was just, it seemed surreal, or like it didn't seem, it took a while to sink in that it was over. It was just sort of an odd moment for me. And then there was the, so what now? Now there was a degree of excitement, like, okay, now I can figure out what the rest of my life is going to be. And that's been an ongoing thing. That never really stopped, because I didn't go into another long running series. I did spend 8 years with a theater company as a co-artistic director, so that had a consistency for those years.
Yeah, but you say that so quickly, but that's a huge time commitment, emotional energy commitment. It's like, it's not easy, and live theater is extremely rewarding emotionally and extremely not rewarding financially, unless you're lucky. So it's like, it's always that balance between, the love of the work and making sure that it can stay afloat, which can be stressful. Was that an experience that you enjoyed, or was it an experience that was like a challenge?
Both, depending on where I was at in my life. There were certainly, I had to make a lot of adjustments in my life, because you're not getting those paychecks that you can rely on. And when you do work, you don't know how long that paycheck has to last. So there was a lot of, fortunately, I was always very good at budgeting and managing my life. So, there were times where I was bored, really, because I wasn't working and didn't quite know what to do with my time. So in the theater I loved, but it wasn't full time until I ended up, this was the theater I worked with was up in Canada, and I moved up to Canada for 10 years. So I love that. And I think that's kind of what I found as an evolution for the transition from doing the series, was ultimately it moved into looking for and finding things that were satisfying to me, on a personal level, and even if they weren't high profile. But I learned so much, and it was so rewarding to have that experience, because I'd done theater for years, so that wasn't new to me. But to move on to the other side and be involved in all the writing and directing, that was new to me.
Right.
So, and to have those, we did 5 original shows a year, and my partner and I wrote them and directed them.
That's a lot.
And did all the casting and all the, so it was a small.
That's a show every 2 months.
Yeah, and it was like a production team of like 5 people. So it was all very very hands-on. I helped build sets. I created costumes. I mean, you did everything. If you have to sweep up, if you have to clean the bath, I mean, you do what you do, which is what I find is great about theater, because it can be such a level playing ground, and that you're creating something together. You're not just a small piece cog in a big wheel. So I loved all that. Yes, it wasn't particularly financially,
A
lucrative.
windfall, but I mean creatively.
Yeah.
My wife and I created a TV show. We wrote together. And did you write these with your then partner?
Yes.
How did you find writing? I love writing personally. I write movies. I write TV shows. How did that come about for you? And how did you find it?
Like many things, it sort of fell into my lap in an oh shoot kind of way. My partner was my husband at the time, and we had just finished doing a couple of theater shows together in Canada. He is Canadian, and he was going from the show that we did to go direct a show for this theater company. I went back to LA, and then about a week later, I got a call from him saying that their present artistic team was leaving to start their own theater company. So all of a sudden, this theater and they didn't, nothing was in advance. It wasn't like, oh, we know we have all the scripts for next season. No, it was show to show. They might say, here are the concepts for the season, but none of them were written. So he said, they're leaving at the end of this show. The next show, they don't have a script. It's supposed to be a country western themed show, and you want to pitch something. You want to write something, and we'll pitch it. And I went, yeah, sure. So I wrote up a first act, which would amount to, they were 30-minute acts. About 15 minutes of it would be music, and about 15 would be script. So, 45 pages of dialogue, so to speak. So I wrote the first act and the concept for the show, and I emailed it to him. He took it into the producer. He pitched it, and the producer said, okay. So my husband at the time, he calls me and he says, you better finish writing that, because, the producer said yes. So then he and I put together a proposal to be the sort of writing and directing team for the theater. And our proposal was accepted. And so then that started that. So we co-wrote. He took the lead on the direction, because it was something I wasn't have a lot of experience. So I was like right there all the time and throwing in ideas and stuff, and at times did take the lead if he was not available. And so it was great, and it just sort of, you do it on the fly. And the great thing about writing for theater as a learning experience is that you get to see everything. It's more than just, oh, let's have a table read, and oh, I think that works. You see it on its feet, and you go, and through rehearsals, and even up until opening, you're tweaking and you're changing and you're doing things. And even after opening, if something's not working, you go back in and you rewrite it. So I loved that, because it just...
Well, you get an audience to tell you if it's playing or not. You can't. I mean, you finish an edit and you send it to the network or wherever, and it's like, okay, let's see if they like it. But you can see if they like it every night.
Yes. And
what part of Canada were you working in? Where were you located?
Well, we were living in Vancouver, because I said I'm not living in Winnipeg. It's, being a Southern California girl, I'm like, I can't, nothing against Winnipeg, except they have, these horrific winters.
Yeah, winters, yeah.
Yeah, but we mounted all the shows in Winnipeg, and then the show would move from Winnipeg to Edmonton, which I also was too cold for me. And ultimately, before I left the company, they had acquired also a theater in Calgary. So the show... So
every place that was cold.
They briefly had one in Vancouver, but it just didn't fly. I think the concept was, commercial, goofy, fun. Before Disney did theater, my former husband used to call it Disney Does Theater, because it was lighthearted, it was family friendly, you could bring kids. It was just very silly and great for Christmas parties and for people who had too much to drink. And we always said by the third act, you just better have a lot of visual humor, because people are just drunk. You know? A lot of them, not all of them, but you know.
A lot of them, yeah.
A lot.
I mean, let's be honest. Yeah, Canada. And it's cold. We'll be back after these messages. Hey, I'm Patrick Labyorteaux, and I play an actor on TV, and I've been doing this for a long, long time. And I know what it's like if you are in a class with people, and sometimes you just want to have that one-on-one connection with the person that you're working with to go over, I don't know, a particular scene, or maybe you have an audition, or maybe you just want the privacy to try stuff that you don't really know is going to work and not have anyone look at you. Well, I have the perfect solution for you. It's called One-on-One with Patrick Labyorteaux. You can book your time at workingactorsschool.com, and it's just me and you for an hour going over whatever it is you want to work on, breaking down the script, talking about character, figuring out your intention, the spine of the scene, everything that goes in to making a dynamite performance. So if you're interested in acting and want that one-on-one personal attention, check out One-on-One with Patrick Labyorteaux. You can find all the information you need at workingactorsschool.com. Act 4, questions. We're moving on to the questions here. This is where my wife, Tina, came up with this list of questions. So it's called Tina's Gotta Know. And the first question is called, That's Showbiz. What would you say is the most Hollywood moment of your life?
Oh, man. Maybe walking the red carpet for the Emmys. You know, when our show was nominated for we won Best Drama in 1972,
Nice.
the first year of the series, and so that was very gratifying. So yeah, that's had Hollywood all over it, or you know, being in the Hollywood Christmas
Sure.
parade. Yeah.
That, you know, at the time, and again, I mean, every time's changed, but that to me as well, you would watch it on TV, and then all of a sudden you're there, and it's on Hollywood Boulevard and Sunset, and it's beautiful, and Santa was there. It was awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, I buy that. Okay, 2. That's Showbiz, part 2. What's the most embarrassing Hollywood moment in your life?
I mean, I'm always still such a fan meeting big stars is still, like, on the rare occasions I've had the opportunity, I babble, and and I'm always like,
Who is the most, to you, the most impressive star that you've ever met?
Tom Cruise. I babbled.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's like I'm like, oh, shut up. It's just like,
So when you meet somebody like that, again, this specifically, I've just been watching a bunch of Cruise movies this last week. Is he really like kind of like a different type of deal, like as far as the energy that is
his
around him? Like, is he a
presence
super movie
is,
star?
yeah. I mean, you see it on the screen, and that's when I kind of get like, okay, why some people are movie stars. They just, you go, yeah, makes sense. You know, there's a presence. There's
Lines up.
Yeah.
Okay, number 3, show me the money. Speaking of Tom Cruise, what is your biggest missed financial opportunity? Now, I'm not looking for numbers, but like all of us in this town, we kind of get, you know, sometimes we get opportunities that we're like, oh, I wish I would have, you know, blank, and you didn't.
I think, I don't know, maybe buying property or something. You know, when I was doing the series, you know, investing in more property. I
Yep.
did really the things that my business manager did put me in a commercial building that ultimately ended up being just going bust. You know, it's like they built a whole new medical building right across the corner, and so all of a sudden the one that I was, you know, had a small ownership in was like, oh, okay. So I would
Right.
say that, you know, not really building a portfolio, perhaps thinking, oh, I can do that later. You know, there will be other opportunities.
Right. Yeah, I know, what's the word? What's the saying? You never do real estate later. But yeah, I hear that. I used to
Although-
drive out to. Yeah, go ahead.
On the opposite side of that, a friend of mine who had always wanted, he spent a lot of years living in New York and always wanted to open like a bar in LA that was kind of like the neighborhood bar that he used to go to in New York, and kind of like the Cheers bar. And so all of the limited partners in that were all actors and writers and people, friends of his that were in the arts. And so it was offered to me to buy a stake in it. And it was at a pretty lean time for me, but I really wanted to do it. And my business manager went, "Oh, I don't think that's a very good investment," or whatever. And I went, "You know what? I understand, but I'm going to do it anyway." And it ended up not being like a windfall, but it did well. And it did well for a period of time, and it made returns at times when things were very lean for me, and I appreciated that regular check for a period of time. And it was just cool to be a part of it.
Well, that's like a unicorn story. I've never heard someone tell a story of where a restaurant or a bar actually benefited them. It's usually like, I lost everything. It's like when I went into the restaurant business. So that's a great story.
Yeah, it was fun.
Okay, number 4.
I always had a table, I always had a seat anytime I wanted to go in, they'd make room.
Judy!
Yeah.
Number 4, show and tell. As a teenager, what was your favorite poster in your room and how did you get it?
I don't know that I really had posters in my. Certainly, I don't think I had posters of people. I think I might have had like more, animal scenes or things like that. So I didn't really collect like movie star posters or things. So I wouldn't say that was a road I kind of went down.
Very good answer.
Right.
Okay.
Next, Tina.
Number 5, showdown. What do you think is the best thing you've ever done, and then the worst thing you've ever done professionally as far as an actor?
Okay. Well, I mean, if we exclude the Waltons, which is just, of course, the pinnacle of having an opportunity to be part of something wonderful that is history, I would say on screen, that's a toss-up. Because I did a Stargate episode that I really loved, where I got to play an alien. And go through the Stargate. But I also did a recurring on a show, I think it was Showtime, not sure, Beggars and Choosers, which was like based off of the concept of a network. This would have been like the 4th network back when we only had CBS, NBC, and ABC. And it was just a fun character. I was this lawyer who, in this comedy, who was defending interesting clients and stuff. So getting to do that, which was a very different sort of role for me from what people knew me as on the Waltons. So I was really proud of that. On stage, probably doing Annie and Annie Get Your Gun, because that was right up my alley. So.
And what would you say is your worst performance? The one that you're not, the one that you don't like.
that I don't tell. There was a movie musical that I worked on that was just, it was kind of a disaster overall, and one of those things I went, oh. Yeah. One that I never...
Which shall be unnamed.
will remain nameless, just, out of respect for the producers and the people who did their best. I think anybody who can get
That's
something
fair.
made deserves credit. And there was nothing, the storyline, there wasn't anything about it that was like in poor taste or anything, so it's not because of that. But there's a lot of things that I'm glad I didn't do that I feel
Does any come to mind?
One was just some tacky movie that I don't even remember what it was, but it was really bad. And I'm like, those times when you go, I could really use a paycheck, and I'm really afraid if they'd offered it to me, I would have taken it for the paycheck. But I'm so glad that I didn't get offered it, because it would have been like, you like to think you have integrity, but when there's bills.
Right. Yeah. You never know. A job's a job sometimes, but sometimes it can blow back on you.
Yeah.
Okay. No show in this kind of vein. No show. What part did you want but didn't get?
There were a number of those, but one that I just always remember, when I was young, I auditioned for Paul Newman for the effect of gamma rays on Man in the Moon Marigolds. There was a part for a young girl, and I got to auditioned for him at the Beverly Hills Hotel in one of the cabanas, and he was so nice, and another person with a lot of presence and very blue eyes like yours, and his daughter got the part. So, but he was kind enough to say that he thought that the actors or actresses or the kids or whatever in LA were better than the ones in New York or something. So he made me feel good even though I didn't get the part.
He feels like a good guy, or felt like a good guy. I never had the chance to meet him. Actually, I did, but I mean it was very brief. Remember, were you at the Being Yourself, the thing that Robert Evans did, where it was a PSA for like don't do drugs, and it was this song that everybody was singing, kind of like We Are the World. Anyways, Paul Newman shows up, and they put him next to me, which is, again, literally they said, "Do not touch Paul Newman," which was funny. But yeah, but that's awesome. That's a great story.
Because I spent 10 years in Canada, there was also a lot of things that happened during that period of time in LA that, I wasn't in LA, so
Yeah, but there was a lot of stuff especially in Vancouver, as you know. I mean, I worked in Vancouver a lot during the 80s because that was a huge town from TV shows and movies and whatnot. Okay, what is your number 7 favorite show? What was the movie or TV show that most influenced you?
Well, Casablanca's always been, a huge staple, that I can watch multiple times. So that one really always stood out.
Now, I love that movie. What is it that it makes you kind of like feel like, why are you connected to it?
I don't even know. I just think it's so well done. I love the story. I love the way it was shot. I love the ending. I mean, I don't know. It was just, it's hard
It's Casablanca. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's a great movie.
And it's such a great
and then in that vein, number 8, Show Me Again. What's the movie that you rewatch the most?
I mean, there's certain things that if I'm flipping channels, I'll always stop on. And it's corny, but I'd say A League of Their Own. The one that Penny Marshall did about the women's baseball thing. I don't know. It just always makes me smile.
Yeah, it's a great movie. I mean,
Being a
there's
sports
movies
person.
like that where all, and as a writer, that like movies are made up of sequences, and all the sequences in that movie are individually interesting, and then you string them all together. So like what you're saying is when you click by something, it's like, oh, this is a good part. Oh, wait, this part's really good too. And you end up watching the whole thing.
Yeah, I can pick it up anywhere and always makes me smile. And I know it well enough that I can just pick it up and watch it. And I always enjoy it. So, I mean, there's a few films like that, but that one came to mind. And,
No, great answer. And then finally, number 9, Show Me Some Love. What is your favorite performance of mine?
Well, I was a big Jag fan, so I would
cool.
say, yeah, I watched that series for I don't know how much of it, but a lot of it. Whereas for some reason, when Little House was on, I didn't watch as much of Little House, so I was less familiar with that series. I caught it here and there, but I don't know.
I was
why.
contractually obligated not to watch the Waltons, so yeah, I get it.
Yeah, do you have the people that come up to you and like it's almost like a badge of honor that they go, I never watched the Waltons. I mean, it's like, okay.
I don't know what those people are about. Like, I don't watch TV, but somebody says you're famous. It's like, okay, fine, I don't care.
Oh, well, this one I love when I'm with somebody who knows who I am or whatever, and somebody will come up that they know, and they'll go and they'll say, do you know who this is? Like pointing at me in the personal, like, look at me, and kind of. And they check you out and they look and you're standing there feeling awkward, and then they're like, no, like, well, TV, and they're kind of looking at you. It's like the Waltons, and they're like, No, I never watched, or I hated that show or whatever. It's like, I mean, I just hate those awkward moments. Or when somebody hands me a phone and goes, "Oh, here, will you say hello to?" I hate those. Will you say hello to? Will you talk to my, you know, my aunt, my mother?
Yeah, it's like the idea too is when, and my son just pointed it out to me. He goes, "Why do people recognize you and then don't believe you when you tell them
Yeah,
what you're on?"
yeah.
Well, Judy, thank you so much for doing this. This was a real pleasure to catch up and check in and talk with you. Thank you so much. This
Oh,
was
you're
really
welcome.
wonderful.
I would love if you would come be a guest on my YouTube channel because I
Oh,
besides the
absolutely.
Waltons, I talk about other art. We have the same fan base, a lot of the same fan base, and I know that they would love to hear your Little House stories and your career and whatnot.
I
So,
would love to participate.
okay,
Just let me
great,
know and I'll be there. All
great.
right.
We'll book something. Okay, thank you so much.
It's the Patrick Labyorteaux Show. Patrick Labyorteaux. He's the one you gotta know.
Hey, everybody. I'm so glad that you're enjoying the podcast and checking it out. It is an audio podcast wherever you get your audio podcast, and it's a video podcast over on YouTube. My socials are all patrick.labyorteaux. And that is on Instagram, on YouTube, on TikTok. I'm everywhere. If you want information on the school, you can go to workingactorsschool.com. We have classes going all the time. It's a lot of fun. I suggest you check it out. Hey, we'll see you next time.
It's the Patrick Labyorteaux Show. Patrick Labyorteaux. He's the one you gotta know.
If you like the show, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe. It really does help the show to grow. Thank you for listening.
Hey, we're Stacy and Pete, and we host We Don't Want to Grow Up, a podcast all about those warm and fuzzy memories from the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s.
We're revisiting the pop culture, toys, and memories that shaped a generation.
Gen X, millennials, and I'm over here representing the Zennials. So if you ever experienced waiting for your Delia's catalog to show up after school, or if you got lost wandering the aisles of Toys R Us, this show's for you. You can listen to us everywhere podcasts are available.